Defense is ready.
All right, defense, you stated you have a motion.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the defense will move for a directed verdict. Specifically to
Oh, and I'm sorry, counsel, you all can remain seated because it makes it easier for the court reporter to hear.
Sure.
I don't take that as any sign of disrespect, trust me.
Yes, Judge.
All right, yes.
Yes, so at this time, the defense moves for a directed verdict based on the evidence that's been presented so far, specifically with counts 3 and 4.
All right, just a moment, let me pull the
The
indictment.
Yes, Judge.
All right, you say counts 3 and 4?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll hear your argument.
Yes, more specifically, because in counts 3 and 4, they have an additional element than in counts 1 and 2. With the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. That is the additional element that both 3 and 4 have. And although we heard testimony of touching of the breast and touching of the genitals, there has been no evidence elicited from the witness stand by the state that has provided any evidence or testimony to that element. It's just stopped at the breast of Gabrielle Guerrero or the genitals of Gabrielle Guerrero with no additional facts and no details. And nothing that they presented can even infer that those elements have been satisfied. And so we believe that a reasonable juror would not find from the evidence presented that these elements have been met and that the state has presented that evidence.
All right, so your objections are to counts 3 and 4 only, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. With respect to, of course, the directed and the scintilla, there was testimony elicited where she said, you know, quote, "He liked me." She said it twice. They talked about the hugging and the kissing, the closing of the door. I think a reasonable juror could easily make the inference that defendant arrives on scene, creates the scenario in which the sexual assault and the indecency with a child by contact occurred. Again, the communication of "he liked me" shows the intent. It shows the specificity with which the relationship continued in a sexual manner. And we believe the state has met its burden with respect to counts 1 through 4. In particular, of course, the issue at hand, counts 3 and 4, Your Honor.
All right, and so that is your response to the defense's intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person?
Yep, that's correct, Your Honor.
All right, state, it's your motion, so you'll have final argument.
Yes, defense, you mean?
I'm sorry, defense.
No
I
worries,
just see
Judge.
Christopher Ramos there.
Yes, no, yes. Your Honor, with regards to the state's response, the fact that the witness would say just that he liked her, that does not go to the element of with intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. This element is very specific and it goes towards not just liking a person, but being aroused and gratifying, not just a desire, "I like you," but a sexual desire of any person. And so the state's response doesn't even go to that element on either of those counts. And so we would respectfully ask the court to grant our motion.
All right, so defense motion will be denied. All right, are you all ready to bring the jury in?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you want, I can have the witness already.
Sure. Okay.
Ready.
Let me look at this for a moment, because they sent me an email on it, and let me check the email. All right. All right, let's bring them in.
All rise for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the slightly light start. I had to take up another case that was unrelated to this case outside your presence. All right, the state, you rested yesterday, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, defense, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may call your first witness.
At this time, the defense calls Jodeci Sneed.
Can you raise your right hand for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you may have a seat. Make sure that you keep your voice up so that members of the jury and the court reporter can hear as well.
Okay,
All right, if you'll state your name for the record.
Jodeci Sneed. Yes, JodeciSneed.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jodeci, do you have a nickname?
Yes,
And what is that?
Joe.
Okay, and so from time to time, I might call you Joe, okay?
Okay,
All right, so how are you related to Brandon?
I am his wife.
And how long have y'all been married?
We've been married, this year will be our 4th year, so 3.
And how long have y'all been actually together?
We're going on 9 years.
Do you have children?
Yes,
How many?
2.
And what are their ages?
My daughter will be 2 on the 10th, and I have a 3-year-old, soon to be 4.
Okay. And so what are their names? Just,
Aaliyah and Kalia.
and how old are you, Miss Jody?
I am 27,
And how old is Brandon?
29.
And what do you do for a living?
I currently own a business, a carpet cleaning business with my husband, Brandon,
Okay, how long have y'all had the business?
since August of 2020.
What's the name of it?
What a Clean Solutions,
Water Clean, like Whataburger?
like Whataburger.
And how long have y'all had that business?
Since August of 2020 is when we were official, but prior to that, we were AOBs, car detailing.
Okay, and so your current, with your current employment, since that y'all both own, what types of, I guess, jobs do y'all do?
We do carpet cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, upholstery cleaning, and auto detailing.
Okay, are you familiar with Gabby
Yes,
Ferrero? Okay, and do you know her parents?
yes.
All right, so do you know April?
April, yes, and her stepfather, Kike, Enrique.
And so how long were y'all friends?
I would say about 4 or 5 years. 4 to 5 years.
From this year or from 21 back?
Oh, from 21 back, 4 to 5 years.
All right, and how would you describe y'all's relationship with that family?
Really close. I saw April more as my sister and Kike, the stepfather, as like an older brother.
Right, and how often would y'all, I guess, interact?
Me and April talked every day, and we would be at their home probably once or twice a week.
So then once or twice a week is about 8 times a
In a
month,
month, yes,
if we go by with the 2.
yes.
Okay, so it's not just once or twice a month that you would see them?
No, I know for sure, well, not for certain, but most of the time we would see them Fridays and Saturdays,
Every single week?
every week.
Okay. And what types of things would y'all do together on Friday and Saturday?
Barbecue, hang out. We ate a lot of Bill Miller's, so we'd go to Bill Miller's almost every Friday, especially during like Fish Friday that they have, because they're Catholic.
All right, so then y'all would also go out together, not just go to their house, right?
So we would all go to pick up the food and then come back.
Okay. And who would be at the home when y'all would go over?
So they have 8 kids in total. So one week it would be all the kids, and the following week would be just April's kids and one of Enrique's sons.
So it would be either 8 or 4 kids?
At most, yes.
Okay. So on the weekends that all the kids weren't there, 4 of them would be with their biological father.
So on the weekend the kids weren't there, 3 of them would go with their mother, and one of Kika's sons would be there, but April would have all 4 of hers.
Okay. All right. And how would you describe their home?
Very open, very active. So you can hear everything, and you can hear kids screaming, playing, and just constant movement throughout the house.
Okay. And these were younger children, correct?
Yes. Leo and Bentley,
Were they the youngest?
they were the youngest. And then there was Aiden and Gabby.
And so did y'all have, I guess, like a routine when y'all would come over or not, as far as greeting the family?
Yes, so we would walk in, me and Brandon would walk in together. April and Kike were normally in the kitchen, if not, April's upstairs, and Kike's for sure in the kitchen, in the island area. We would go and say hello, and then either I or Brandon would go upstairs, say hi to whoever's upstairs, and we'll come back down.
Okay. And would, I guess, how often would you go with Brandon?
I say out of the 8 times, maybe 6. Maybe once or twice I didn't go upstairs because everyone would be downstairs. So,
All right. So you're just saying that 6 out of 8 times, if you went to that house 8 times that month, 6 out of the 8 times you would go upstairs?
correct, because April was mainly upstairs.
Okay. So how often, excuse me, how often would you go with Brandon to their house?
Every time besides one time I did not.
Okay. Why did you not that one time?
I just had a baby and I was nervous during COVID time. So I didn't want to bring my daughter with me, and they were delivering a bed. So I knew it was going to be quick. So I didn't feel like I need to go and stay for a while.
When did you have your baby?
I had her in October 2020.
Okay. And so you said that you didn't go that one time. Was it also in October 2020?
I
Same month that you had your baby?
don't recall the actual day or the month. I know it was during the holidays because they did have a tree up,
So like November, December?
I would say,
Okay. Of 2020.
of
though.
2020.
They had the tree up already.
Yes.
Okay. And so how did that happen? The delivery of the bed?
April and Kike, they knew we had extra rooms, and they knew that I was turning my daughter's room into a nursery. So I had an extra guest bed that I didn't need anymore. So they asked me if they could have it. And I was like, sure, like, go ahead and take it. We'll bring it.
Okay.
There
And
was no use.
okay. And so who was the bed gonna be for?
Gabby,
Did Gabby not have a bed?
she, I believe, had a twin size bed.
All right. And so, who came to your house to get the bed?
My husband, Brandon, and my uncle, Isaiah.
Okay. And how old is Isaiah?
Oh, I believe he just turned 25.
And he's your uncle?
Yes.
And so Isaiah comes over and Brandon and him get the bed and then,
They go deliver it to April and Kika. And then Brandon does text me, April's upset you didn't come with the baby.
now, why would that be?
Objection calls for speculation and hearsay.
All right, ask your question. I'll hear the question and then state you can make your objection.
Okay, how did April feel about your baby?
Objection, speculation.
That'll be overruled to speculation.
You can answer.
She loved my daughter. She loved her like if it was like her niece.
Okay, and how do you know that?
I object to relevance and continued speculation.
All right, with regards to relevance,
Judge, it goes to the relationship.
all right, that'll be sustained.
Okay, would April buy things for your daughter?
Objection, relevance.
That'll be overruled.
Yes,
Okay, and often or just once in a while?
often. She would buy her headbands, onesies. She'd made onesies for her. She loved my daughter.
Okay, and so when Brandon called you to say she was upset you didn't
Objection,
go,
this is calling for hearsay, Your Honor.
so she's already testified to that.
She has not gotten into what the defendant said and defense cannot do that. Your
No,
Honor.
it's
All right,
not.
so let me have party's approach.
Yes, Judge.
All right, you may ask your question.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, you had testified that April was upset that you didn't go that time with Brandon to her house, right?
Correct.
Now, upset in the sense that she just wanted to see your baby.
Yes.
And in all the years that y'all were friends, that was the only time that you did not go with Brandon to their house?
Yes.
And is this the house on Bear Branch?
Yes.
Now, when y'all would go over to their house, were y'all mainly indoors or outdoors?
We were indoors.
When you walk into their door, their front door, what would you see? Explain to the jury what you would see coming in.
Okay, so as soon as you walk in, she has a small living room to the right. It's more like a den. And then immediately right after is their kitchen, open floor plan, and there's an island and bar stools. It's a small hallway. You continue to go, and right as soon as you hit the end of the island, or maybe the middle of the island, there's a stairs. They go straight upstairs, and then you keep going into open living room. This is still downstairs. It's an open living room and a master bedroom. You go immediately upstairs, and there's a game room. And then to your left is Gabby's room and a bathroom. And then to your right is 4 other bedrooms for the kids, or 3, I'm sorry, 3 other bedrooms for the kids and a bathroom.
Okay, and so, did you say the craft room was upstairs?
Yes, in the game room. So the game room was their loft, and so as soon as you get up through the stairs, immediately there's a futon and a TV with like a PlayStation, Xbox, And then right behind that is her craft area, which is all open. So she made like cups, shirts, decals, stuff like that. And it was just all open.
Okay, and so downstairs, you said when you come in, there's that first dining room.
Yes.
But
I
that was
guess you
like a-
could call it a dining area.
Was it like a formal dining room?
So she would just leave like groceries there or like overflow of waters and
Okay,
kid stuff.
so you would pass that up and then go to the main area?
Yes, which
Okay.
was their kitchen, island area, and the living room right after that.
Okay, and so, so the stairs, how you've described it, you said first it was the island area with
Yes.
stools.
Yes, so it's as soon as you walk in, you go straight past that small room and there's an island with, I want to say about 4 to 5 bar stools. And right after like the third or fourth bar stool, the stairs are right behind you on your back.
And then to the right of the stairwell?
Is a master room and a living room.
Okay, so I'm gonna just use this room for an example.
Okay.
Not that the square footage is the same or anything. And Judge, if I may, I'm just gonna point to some things here.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just say I'm walking in to the house.
Okay.
Here. And there's a room, right, the one that they use for kind of storage.
Yes.
And then, is there something to my left immediately?
The garage, their laundry room and garage area is like right there.
So then I keep walking and then, and what's to my left right here?
A wall with the bathroom,
The wall.
leading to the bathroom.
And so if I keep walking, where does the island start?
You're already there.
So there's an island right here?
Yes,
And the bar stools, are they along the walkway or on the side or on the inside?
along the walkway.
So right now as I'm walking, I would see the stools right there.
Yes.
So I keep walking and then at what point are the stairs on my left?
Right after the bathroom. So you're like right there by the stairs.
So, okay, so
You're going
now the
up.
stairs are here to go up.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm past the stairs, still on the first floor. And I know I'm almost here, but what would I see right here?
A master room
So then there's a room to the
and then
left
the whole living room.
and the living room's all right here.
Yes.
And it goes further back.
Yes, and it wraps around straight to the island kitchen
So it's
area.
literally a square.
Yes.
And so is this stove and kitchen area over here on the left?
Yeah, so you'll have like the stove, the counter, keep going. You're in the sink area now. If you face me,
Facing you?
that's like the sink area.
And the island's still right there?
Yes.
Okay,
And then to your left is the fridge and like a small hallway to the other den area.
okay, so everything really is open like this, except separated by the island and furniture.
Yes.
Okay, so the stairwell is not, when you first walk in, you'd go upstairs, it's sort of in the middle of the house.
Yes, exactly, actually.
Okay, all right, so when y'all are sitting by the island, you could see who goes up and down the stairs.
Yes.
So it's not in a secret back place.
No.
Okay, and so where would you generally come in and sit down?
I would sit right beside the stairs in the bathroom because I use the bathroom quite often. So the stairs were like to my left, or yes, to my left, and the bathroom is like right on my right side. So I'm in between both.
Okay, and so where would Brandon sit?
Right beside me. If not, towards the end of the island. So he gets hot easily. So being around like a crowded room in a small area, he'll be sweating. So he would sit isolated so he wasn't so hot.
But still in the island area?
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about, you said he sweats, he gets hot easily.
Yes.
How can you describe what happens with him?
So I would say, like when you're claustrophobic and you're in a tight area, you start to like drip and sweat. It's kind of the same thing. Like if you did a full body workout, it's just his face.
Okay, and he's always been like that since you've known him?
Always.
In fact, does he carry something to wipe his face?
A face towel, yes.
Now, all right, and so when everyone was downstairs, where would April and Enrique be?
If April was downstairs, she was more than likely cooking. And if she wasn't, she was upstairs in the craft room. So she would normally be standing and Kika would be sitting closer towards like the fridge area.
The wet area?
The fridge area at the end of the island, closer to the fridge.
Okay. And so would y'all ever migrate over to the living room area?
Not often, maybe just to watch a movie or if like a show is going on. That's really the only time, but not often. We would normally be at the island.
Okay. And then of course, what would y'all be doing around there?
Just hanging out, eating, drinking, just really hanging out, talking about our day, our week.
Okay, all right. And so I'm gonna turn your attention to February 13th, 21.
Okay.
Okay. At that time, I guess how old was your newborn
Oh,
right now?
5 months or going 4 months
You had her October,
to February.
February, okay. 4 months,
Yes.
all right. And so now would you take your baby with you when y'all went to their house?
So initially, no. I was COVID scared, so I didn't take her too often. It wasn't until she was about 3 months, 4 months, but on that day, no, I didn't.
Who was taking care of her?
My husband's grandma.
Okay. So, how is it that you remember that day?
I document everything, so I have Snapchat videos of us there and pictures of us there. So I just have a really good memory.
Okay, and, do you recall approximately what time y'all arrived there?
I say around 7:30, 8 o'clock.
And do you remember about what time y'all left? And it doesn't have to be exact.
11:30, 11. Never too late because I was always tired.
Okay, sure. All right, so 11:30 or 12, something like that.
Yes.
Not like 2 in the morning, 3 in the
Oh,
morning.
no.
And who was there that day?
It was me and Brandon, April, Kike, and all of April's kids, Gabby, Aiden, Leo Bentley, and Jordan.
So from her kids, it was 5 of them.
April's kids, 4, and Kike had 1,
That's
his
right.
oldest,
Jordan,
Jordan.
okay, but 5 of their, I guess.
5 of
together,
their kids together, yes.
5 of them, and then.
All right, so excuse me, if y'all could remember not to talk over each other because it's hard for the court reporter to get down
Yes.
everything that people are saying.
And 4 adults,
Yes.
okay. So there were 9 people in the house,
Yes.
all right. And so do you remember when y'all came in, how the greetings were, how that happened?
Yes. So I had a bag with me of clothing that April was gonna borrow. I don't know where she was going, but I had a bag of clothes and shoes and a pink duffel bag. And so we walk in, Kike opens the door. We walk in, I give April the bag. She's at the island and I say hi to everybody. I go with April to her room to drop the bag. And Gabby comes down and that was about it, really. And then we just stayed in her room for a little bit, looking through the bag. And we came out to the island area and sat down.
Okay, so then y'all immediately, the girls, right, the females.
Yes.
Went to the bedroom
Yes.
on the first floor. You, April, and Gabby,
Yes.
and you said Gabby came down, so I guess she heard that y'all were there and came down.
Yes.
All right, and so approximately how long were y'all in the room looking at the clothing?
I say about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. I guess what were you doing with the clothing?
I was just showing her all the items that I brought her and telling her if it fits, we can borrow it. If it doesn't fit, just put it back in the bag and I'll get it the next day.
Okay, and was Gabby also interested in the clothing?
Yes. So Gabby was almost similar to my size. So she would go through the clothes too and see what she wanted to wear.
Okay, and so after y'all finished looking at the clothing and, just showing them what you had, what did y'all do?
We went to the island area and sat down.
And where did Gabby go?
Gabby went upstairs.
And were any of the boys downstairs?
No, they were all upstairs.
And so while y'all were, the three females in the room, you didn't know where Brandon was, or did you?
When we first got there, he sat down at the island with Kike. They both sat down and talked. And when I came out, Brandon was already downstairs. He was sitting down.
Okay. Did you ever go upstairs
That night or in general?
that night?
That night, I don't believe so.
Okay. Now you say I don't believe so. Do you not know, or?
I don't know.
Okay. And so do you remember Brandon, going upstairs while you were downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately when did that happen? After y'all got done with the clothes in the room later that evening, or when?
I'd say maybe about 30 minutes after we were already in the island talking. That's when the two little ones realized that we were there, Leo and Bentley. And all I heard was Brandon.
Okay.
And then he went upstairs, said
They were
hello.
calling his name?
Yes,
Okay. Did they come down and say Brandon, or was it upstairs that they were saying Brandon?
upstairs.
And so then that's when he went up?
Yes,
Okay. And so how long was he gone for?
a minute or two.
Okay. And when he came back down, did the kids come with him?
Yes,
So it was Bentley. And what was the other?
Leo.
Leo. They were the two youngest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so what was the relationship with Bentley and Leo with Brandon?
Brandon saw them like his little brothers. Like he could wrestle with them and play with them because they were the two youngest and he's known them since they were little. So he would just play with them as they grew up.
Okay. And so when you said that they yelled his name, Brandon, I guess, how did they say that? In a happy way, or
In a happy way.
okay, excited?
Like, yes, excited. Like they knew that they were going to get to wrestle with Brandon.
Okay. And how would you describe Brandon's personality?
Brandon is a very positive person, maybe too positive and happy and just, he's amazing. Anybody that's ever met him says the same thing. He's a very respectable guy.
It's improper testimony, Your Honor. It's bolstering.
All right, that'll be sustained.
Okay. Now, and so when he came back downstairs after a minute or two, later in the evening, did you ever notice him go back upstairs?
No,
You didn't see him come up and down the stairs about 3 times?
no,
And are you positive about that?
I am positive.
Now, when y'all were downstairs the rest of the evening, what did y'all do?
We hung out, we were talking, really about Kike because he bruised his toe. And we were just talking about it and like, how does that happen?
Okay, bruised his toe,
Yes.
but he had a condition, right?
I forget what it's called. His
Gout?
foot would get, yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay. And so, so y'all were just, of course, getting along with each other, right?
Yep.
Okay. And at any time did Gabby come downstairs?
just the initial time when I first got there, when I brought the clothes.
You don't remember if she later, had a bag to go spend the night at someone else's house?
I'm gonna object to leading, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Right? Gabby never came downstairs,
I'm
you
gonna
said?
object to leading again, Your Honor.
She
All
just, I'm clarifying.
Herrera. All right, ask your question.
Yes. did Gabby come downstairs? The rest of the evening?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, did she remain in the house?
No. But when I was leaving with April to the
I'm
door,
gonna object to non-responsive at this point, Your Honor.
All right, that'll be overruled.
when I was leaving out the door, Gabby was behind me.
I guess just greeting you to say goodbye behind you?
I would say so. I mean, we never really said like bye to each other. It was just kind of like we would leave and I would just say bye to the parents
Okay, so then you do remember her downstairs out when y'all were leaving?
when we were leaving.
Okay, and so you cannot tell us what happened after you left, if she left or not?
Correct.
Okay, now, did you and Brandon get along pretty well with Kike?
Yes.
And so, was he as close to your children as, April?
Sort of. He was more like a dad, an older dad. He didn't want to be bothered. He already had his littles. So he would be kind of like, oh, it's cool, you had a kid. But
And your relationship with April, you said was like a sister, right?
yes,
Okay. Would she share with you, family, I guess, personal information?
I'm gonna
Yes.
object at this point, Your Honor, to relevance.
All right, that'll be overruled.
yes,
Okay. And did she share with you, some of the problems that she had with Gabby?
yes,
And you, of course, would just give her your own advice, right?
yes, because I knew what it was like to be a teenager and, like arguing with your mom.
Okay. Now, what kind of parent was April?
Very strict.
Very strict. What do you mean by that?
So Gabby really wasn't allowed to go anywhere besides her best friend's house. And her aunt's house. But Gabby didn't have a phone, but her brothers did, even her younger brother did. And
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object to speculation and arguing outside any established record of these statements.
All right, that'll be overruled.
April was just a very strict mom. She just did not let Gabby do much, but she did let her son do a lot. Aiden.
And would you, I guess, would you characterize it as overly strict or just a typical strict parent taking care of their children?
I'm going to object to leading, Your Honor.
That'll be overruled.
I would say overly strict. I just feel like sometimes Gabby would try to see what she can get away with. And
Your Honor, I'm going to object to narrative.
Would you
That'll be
say,
sustained.
thank you, Jen. Would you say that, that Gabby became a little rebellious?
I'm going to object to leading, Your Honor.
Overruled.
yes,
And since April would share with you some of the problems she was having with her, were there things that Gabby was doing behind her mother's back?
I'm going to have to object to improper 404, Your Honor. Attempting to elicit character evidence. Specific instances to be clear.
All right, then with regards to that objection, that'll be sustained.
Okay. Now,
You'll ask it in the proper format.
yes, Your Honor. Now, do you recall a time when Brandon went to the store? Well, she went to the store with Brandon, Gabby?
yes.
I have to object to relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Okay. And how long were they gone for?
I would say about 5 minutes.
And what were they going to the store for?
I have to object to speculation.
That will be overruled if you know.
What were they gonna go buy?
Ice.
All right, and so 5 minutes later, they were both back.
Yes.
Okay. Later, did you find out from Brandon that she had a phone that she shouldn't have been having with her.
I'm gonna object to calls for hearsay, Your Honor, the defendant's statement.
Sustained.
Now, did you see Brandon speaking to Kike when they got back from the store?
Yes.
Do you know, if you know, if it was in your presence, that April had a talk with Gabby? Was it in your presence?
Yes.
And was it after that that y'all decided to leave?
Yes.
How did you feel, based on what you saw, which resulted in y'all leaving?
I was a little shocked, I guess you could say.
Okay, now, you would agree that y'all spent a lot of time with this family
Yes.
and the children as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, did Gabby have a nickname that her father would call her?
Yes.
Object, Your Honor, it's calling for hearsay.
All right.
Judge, if she was present.
Well, just one second. The answer to the question was yes. So the objection for hearsay will be overruled. And you can ask your next question, and then I'll hear whatever objection.
What was her nickname?
Objection calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Did Kike, without saying what her nickname was, call her by a different, I guess, name?
This calls for hearsay, and it's a defense clearly trying to circumnavigate the rules of evidence, Your Honor.
And Judge, she's not saying what the name is.
All right, you can answer the question. That's either yes or no.
Would he call her by a different name?
Yes.
Now, Gabby would share with you some of her personal information too, right?
Yes.
And I guess when she would share this information, would you later share it with her mom?
Yes.
And why?
She was my friend, ultimately.
And was it more for like parent to parent,
Yes.
not to hurt Gabby, right?
No.
Was it to protect her or for what reason?
Yes.
Now, after the 13th, after that day when y'all ended up leaving due to a family issue that happened, what did y'all do the following day?
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
For Valentine's Day,
That would have been the 14th, yes.
I believe we went to Peter Piper's, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. When was the next time you saw them again?
The freeze, the snowstorm freeze that happened.
Yes. And so that was the 14th, February 14th. When did you see, if you don't remember the exact date, but did you see them in a few days later?
I believe the 17th or 18th.
Okay. And how was it that you all came to see each other?
They came to our house.
Okay. And so what did y'all do at your house?
They came for the snowstorm to stay the night
And why?
because they said they had no electricity or water.
Okay. And so, did y'all provide them with water, jugs of water?
Jugs of water, I believe so. I think they refilled gallons that they had, or yeah, I guess a gallon, I guess what you can call it.
Okay. And so who all spent the night at y'all's house?
both April and Kika and all 8 of their kids.
So this time they had all 8 of them.
Yes.
How far did y'all live from their house?
I think it's like 14 minutes, 12 minutes.
And how many nights did they spend there?
1.
Did they have electricity by the next day?
I believe so.
And so then, after they left the next morning or afternoon, when did they leave?
Around noon.
Okay. So after that, did y'all see them the rest of the evening on that next day?
No, I believe we saw them the day after.
Okay. That would make it the 19th.
19th.
And so how did y'all come to see them?
We dropped off chargers.
Were they your chargers?
No,
give to
it was
them?
their chargers. They had left behind a bed, I think, or a couch.
Okay, from spending the night wherever they had left them, they,
Yes.
okay. All right. And so when y'all left the chargers, how did that happen?
It was a quick drop off. We just dropped it off and we left after that.
Okay, so y'all didn't go into their house? Did y'all stay in your car? How did that happen? The transaction of giving them their chargers? Did y'all visit for a little bit or not? How did that happen?
No, I just dropped off the chargers and we left.
Did y'all get out of your car to go into their house or just
Oh, yes,
drive by?
sorry, yes.
Yes. That's what I'm wanting. Y'all stayed in your car?
No,
No. Tell us how that happened. That visit.
okay. It was a quick visit. We got down, we dropped off the chargers, went inside. We hung out for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we left.
Okay. And was the whole family there that day?
I believe so. If not, Kika's kids weren't there. I don't think they were there yet. Are you still? I think they had left.
Okay.
It's 3.
And since y'all were there for 20 minutes, did Brandon go upstairs to say hi to the kids?
No,
Did you go upstairs to say hi to the kids?
no.
Okay. So where did y'all spend that 20 minutes?
In the island area?
And that was February 19th, 21, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so did you notice anything awkward or unusual with their behavior or anything towards you and Brandon?
No.
After the 19th, when was the first time you learned of accusations against Brandon?
I believe it was shortly after.
And how did you receive that information?
A sheriff came to my house.
Did you ever call April to see like what was going on?
I did.
And did she speak with you about any allegations?
No.
And when was the last time you spoke with her?
The day the sheriff came to my house.
And did you speak with Brandon about any allegations?
Yes.
And has he maintained his innocence since that time?
Object to calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Now, when y'all are in that home, can you hear anything, any activity that might be going on upstairs?
Yes.
And what kinds of things can you hear when you're there?
Footsteps, talking. You can hear the shower turns on, doors close. You can hear anything up there, really.
When the shower's on, you can hear it.
Yes.
How about when the toilet flushes?
Yes.
People walking,
Yes.
you sit talking also?
Yes.
Do they have to be yelling to
No.
hear? In fact, when you're standing there, at the bottom, the base of the stairs. Do you know approximately how many stairs there are? Just an idea.
Maybe 10 steps.
Okay. And can you see from downstairs, just looking up, can you see any of the rooms or anything like that?
So they had a Funko Pop collection, and you can just see the Funko Pops.
I'm sorry,
A
what?
Funko Pop collection?
Can you
like-
explain to the jury what that is? I don't know what that
Like,
is.
And excuse me, can you spell that?
oh, yes. FUNKOPOP. And it's just like action figures in a box. And you can look up and see the boxes lined up.
Okay, and so, thank you for that. And so where are these boxes, I guess, situated when you look up? Where are they situated?
On the stair ledge, like at the, I don't know what it's called.
Is it on the loft already?
Yes,
So if someone's standing there, they can look down at the person and look at each other?
yes,
Okay, so it's not around the corner or anything?
no.
Because some stairs go up and then they turn and there's more.
Oh, her stairs? Yes. So you go up, it's a landing space, and then to the left, you go up another 5 steps.
Okay,
So,
but when you go up the first, I guess, set of stairs for the landing space, it's not just wall, it actually shows part of the loft?
yes,
All right, and so, was there, even if it wasn't the 13th of February, like maybe it was earlier in February or later in February, did you ever notice in any of the visits at their house that Brandon would go upstairs for a significant amount of time, like more than 2 minutes or something?
no,
And did you ever, and again, let's just give you all of February, right? To not stick to just one day. What, did you ever see him going back and forth upstairs and downstairs, maybe for 5 minutes and then go back up and down? Any of that type of activity?
no,
Now, when he would go upstairs, was there any times when you were upstairs too?
yes,
And you would only go upstairs when, you said when April was upstairs.
correct.
And so, when she was working on her crafts, things, would you stay up there with her?
Yes,
And was Gabby always upstairs when you were in that craft area with April?
yes,
And did you notice if the doors upstairs were closed at all times?
not all times,
So sometimes they'd be closed,
sometimes,
sometimes they'd be open.
yes.
So the majority of the time, how would you say that you would remember the doors, how they were?
Like cracked, I guess. You can see a small peek into her room.
Okay, and so who would be in that game room area where there was TV and games?
Leo and Bentley.
And did they have some, I guess, beds or any place that they would sleep?
I know Leo slept in the game room and Bentley would sleep with Gabby.
Now, didn't Gabby share the room with her stepsister,
Yes,
Evangelista?
yes.
Okay, and so they shared a bed together?
No, they call her Wiwa Evangelista, but she slept in a crib, kind of like a toddler bed.
How old was she?
5.
Okay, so they were in the same room, except Wiwa, which is Evangelista, would sleep in, you said like a crib,
Yes,
but like for an older person?
yes.
I mean, an older
So
child?
a crib turned to toddler bed.
I see, the transitional beds that they have.
Yes,
And so that room was big enough for there to be two, a regular bed and a crib bed.
yes.
Okay, and so where would Bentley sleep?
with Gabby.
So Bentley would sleep in the bed with Gabby,
Yes,
and Bentley was how old?
I don't know. Maybe 4, 5.
Okay. Um, and how is it that you know this? Did you see them in the room sleeping?
Yes,
And did he not have his own room with another brother?
no.
And he would sleep in the game room with Leo?
Occasionally to nap, but Gabby would grab him and they would sleep in the bed together.
Were Gabby and Bentley very close?
Yes,
Now, did you know Destiny?
yes.
How old was Destiny in 21?
I don't know, maybe 16.
She was older than Gabby.
I believe so.
And when, I guess, how do you know Destiny?
She is Kika's niece. Um, I've only met her 3, 4 times, maybe.
So she wasn't at the house very often.
Only for parties.
Okay. But maybe 3 or 4 times, you said?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Pass the witness.
State.
Thank you, Your Honor. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing all right.
Just a few questions for you. So your relationship began with the defendant back when you were 18, is that correct? Hereabout.
About,
And you said you have 2 children together?
correct.
And with respect to the parties, you had mentioned yourself, your words, that you have just a very, very good memory. Is my understanding correctly?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And when you go to these parties, kind of walk me through just a basic scenario. If I was watching a movie of your life and you guys are at maybe the island in the kitchen, or you're out barbecuing or whatever, would you guys play board games? Would you talk to each other? Would you have group conversations, one-on-ones, like just in a very brief description, kind of what could you expect watching the movie of y'all's life at some of these get-togethers?
So normally it's all of us at the island and mainly the girls. If there's a party, there'll be more women there. So it'd be all of us girls inside in the island and the guys and the husbands in the garage, in the man cave.
So it's hard necessarily to keep track of everyone at all time. Do you think that's a fair statement, or do you think you have a good read on where everyone is at every moment of time at a party?
For the most part, yeah, I mean, you can see everyone where they're going. You can't miss anyone,
Right.
but everything was downstairs.
Okay. And you said, you could hear things like creaks and whatever. I mean, just, I guess the sound was quite clear in this home. You could hear everything. And, or maybe to rephrase my question, you had stated on direct that you just kind of observed everything. Like you can remember when a door creaked, or when you heard footsteps upstairs, or they were watching TV. Am I understanding that correctly?
I can hear upstairs.
So if you had to put it on a scale 1 to 10, how good would you say your situational or spatial awareness is when you're in a room?
Maybe like a 7, 8.
Pretty good. You're hearing noises, and you actually said on direct exam, counsel asked you, not even was Brandon around or not around, but a pretty specific question. Was he ever gone longer than 2 minutes? And you pretty quickly and pretty clearly said no.
Correct.
That's correct. And so you could really kind of gauge, again, with pretty clear specificity to almost the minute how long someone was here or not here, correct?
Almost.
And that's given your ability, your memory, your spatial awareness, you observe things, you hear things, correct? I mean, is
I
it the
do.
correct impression of you,
Yes,
especially in the spaces you operate within?
correct.
Okay, in given that, I guess, skill set or whatnot, I mean, for example, there's a door to your back right. How many times, we've kept track, how many times has it opened or closed since you've been on the witness stand?
I'm not sure.
You don't know. The woman in the gray suit jacket, she got up to leave earlier. How long was she gone for?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. This woman actually here has left the room twice. How long was she gone for both times?
I'm not sure.
This gentleman in the back, how long has he been in the room for?
I'm not sure.
There was actually a woman sitting here on the back left. How long ago did she leave?
I'm not sure.
That's a lot of people though, right?
Correct.
And you can hear the door open and close, correct?
Correct.
So do you think it's fair to say that at times, over the course of 6 to 8 times a month, over the course of years, there may have been occurrences where you couldn't keep perfect track of everyone at those parties?
Not everyone, but Brandon, yes.
So 100% of the time, you can take the stand today and say with 100% certainty, to the minute, maybe to the 2-minute mark, you know where he was.
Not the exact time.
But
A
for
roundabout.
hypothetical 2-minute mark, you could say you knew where he was
A roundabout.
over the space of years,
Yes.
over the space of hundreds, if not dozens and dozens of parties.
They didn't have too many parties.
Well, 6 to 8 times a month, right? For years would, I'm a lawyer, so I'm not good enough, but that could be a big number, right?
It's just a gathering, but they wouldn't have too many parties.
Sure, but my question is not about the size, it's not about the location, it's about the specificity with which you're able to comfortably testify how often he was or wasn't in your presence, correct?
Yes.
And you think, again, across that time span, you're certain about his whereabouts?
Yes.
No further questions, John.
Now, did I just see, you said the women would be at the island?
Yes.
Okay, and so you would notice if a man went upstairs, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so when you say it, it was about 2 minutes, you're not saying to the second and you had a timer, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so, was the approximate time frame, or however long it took them to go upstairs and come down, was that usually the same every time you'd visit there?
Yes.
And so you would notice your own husband if he was going upstairs often.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Kike had his man cave, right?
Yes.
Okay, what was in there?
A TV, Xbox, some fridges, a bunch of like sports stuff.
Okay, and if they needed to go to the bathroom, which bathroom was available to them?
The guest bathroom,
And where was that located?
right behind the island.
So they would have no need to go upstairs.
No.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse for the state, Your Honor.
And she's excused from the.
All right, the rule has been invoked. That means you're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone. Only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state of the defense. All right, you may step down. Defense, call your next witness.
At this time, the defense rests, Your Honor.
All right,
We
state
rest and
be
close.
close.
State closes as well.
Defense
rest.
be close.
Yes, Judge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is what is going to happen now. I just need to take up a matter. It'll take no more than 5 minutes. And then I will call you back in. I'll read to you what is called the jury charge or the charge of court. And then both sides will have a chance to proceed with their closing arguments. Everyone, please rise for the jurors. And Deputy Laura, we'll have them back at 10:55. Is that enough time for everyone? 10:55, or do you need more? Okay. All right, thank you. And remember my previous instructions. We're ready.
All rise for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read to you what's called the charge of the court. After I read it, the state and the defense will have a chance to present you with their closing arguments if they choose to do so. You do not have to memorize what the document I'm going to read you because you will have it back to you when I send you back to deliberate. Charge of the court. Members of the jury, the defendant, Brandon Sierra, stands charged in count 1 of the indictment with the offense of sexual assault of a child alleged to have been committed on or about the 13th day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas. The defendant, Brandon Sierra, stands charged in count 2 of the indictment with the offense of sexual assault of a child alleged to have been committed on or about the 30th day of January 2021 in Bexar County, Texas. The defendant, Brandon Sierra, stands charged in count 3 of the indictment with the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact alleged to have been committed on or about the 13th day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas. The defendant, Brandon Sierra, stands charged in count 4 of the indictment with the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact alleged to have been committed on or about the 13th day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas. To these offenses, the defendant has pleaded not guilty. Our law provides that a person commits the offense of sexual assault of a child if, regardless of whether the person knows the age of the child at the time of the offense, the person intentionally or knowingly causes the sexual organ of a child to contact the sexual organ of another person, including the actor, or causes the mouth of a child to contact the sexual organ of another person, including the actor. 2, our law provides that a person commits the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact if with a child younger than 17 years of age, whether the child is of the same or opposite sex, and regardless of whether the person knows the age of the child at the time of the offense, the person engages in sexual contact with the child or causes the child to engage in sexual contact. 3, child means a person younger than 17 years of age. Sexual contact means the following acts if committed with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. Any touching by a person, including touching through clothing of the breast of a child, or any touching by a person, including touching through clothing of any part of the genitals of a child. 4, a person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the nature of his conduct or to a result of his conduct when it is his conscious objective or desire to engage in the conduct or cause the result. A person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to the nature of his conduct or to circumstances surrounding his conduct when he is aware of the nature of his conduct or that the circumstances exist. A person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to a result of his conduct when he is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. 5, the phrase on or about means that the state is not required to prove that the alleged offense happened on that exact date. Our law provides that the time of the offense alleged in the indictment must be some date anterior to the presentment of the indictment and not so remote that the prosecution of the offense is barred by limitations. There is no limitation period for the offenses of sexual assault of a child and indecency with a child by sexual contact. The indictment in this case was filed on February 9th, 2022. 6, count 1. Now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 13th day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant, Brandon Sierra, did intentionally or knowingly cause the sexual organ of Gabrielle Guerrero, a child who was younger than 17 years of age, to contact the sexual organ of Brandon Sierra, then you will find the defendant guilty of the offense of sexual assault of a child as charged in count 1 of the indictment. If you do not so find beyond a reasonable doubt, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will find the defendant not guilty of count 1. 7, count 2. Now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 30th day of January 2021 in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant, Brandon Sierra, did intentionally or knowingly cause the mouth of Gabrielle Guerrero, a child who was younger than 17 years of age, to contact the sexual organ of Brandon Sierra, then you will find the defendant guilty of the offense of sexual assault of a child as charged in count 2 of the indictment. If you do not so find beyond a reasonable doubt, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will find the defendant not guilty of count 2. 8, count 3. Now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 13th day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant, Brandon Sierra, did intentionally or knowingly engage in sexual contact with Gabrielle Guerrero, a female child younger than 17 years, by touching the breasts of Gabrielle Guerrero with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person, then you will find the defendant guilty of the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact as charged in count 3 of the indictment. If you do not so find beyond a reasonable doubt, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will find the defendant not guilty of count 3. 9, count 4. Now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 13th day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant, Brandon Sierra, did intentionally or knowingly engage in sexual contact with Gabrielle Guerrero, a female child younger than 17 years, by touching part of the genitals of Gabrielle Guerrero with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person, then you will find the defendant guilty of the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact as charged in count 4 of the indictment. If you do not so find beyond a reasonable doubt, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will find the defendant not guilty of count 4. You are instructed that your verdict on each count must be unanimous. If there's evidence presented of more than one alleged instance that could constitute an offense committed by the defendant against the complainant, if any, you are instructed that your verdict on each of the individual counts must be unanimous about which, if any, specific instant constituted the commission of the offense that is alleged in that count. Evidence of any other acts alleged of misconduct by the defendant against the complainant in this case is not to be considered by you unless you believe those acts, if any, were committed beyond a reasonable doubt. With regards to those other acts, if any, you are instructed that said evidence was admitted, if it was, only for the purpose of showing the state of mind of the defendant and the complainant and the previous and subsequent relationship between the defendant and the complainant, if it does, and for no other purpose. Our law provides the defendant may testify in his own behalf if he elects to do so. This, however, is a right accorded to the defendant, and in the event he elects not to testify, that fact cannot be taken as a circumstance against him. In this case, the defendant has elected not to testify, and you are instructed that you cannot and must not refer or allude to that fact throughout your deliberations or take it in consideration for any purpose whatsoever as a circumstance against him. You are instructed that you must not communicate with or provide any information to anyone or receive any information from anyone by any means about this case. You may not use any electronic device or media, such as telephone, cell phone, smartphone, iPhone, BlackBerry, iPad, tablet or computer, the internet, any internet service, or any text or instant messaging service, or any social media platform, internet chat room, blog or website to include, but not limited to, Google, Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, or X to communicate with anyone, any information, or receive any information from anyone about this case, or to conduct any research about this case until I accept your verdict. Written statements made by a witness to investigators or other officers, or police reports made by officers or tendered by the prosecution to the defense for purposes of cross-examination are not part of the evidence unless introduced into evidence. Many times, statements and reports may be marked with an exhibit number, but are neither offered nor received in evidence. I can send only statements and reports received in evidence to the jury room. You're instructed that the statements of counsel made during the course of the trial or during the argument, if not supported by evidence, or statements of law made by counsel, if not in harmony with the law as stated to you by the court, and these instructions are to be wholly disregarded. You must disregard any comment or statement made by the court during the trial or in these instructions, which may seem to indicate an opinion with respect to any fact, item of evidence, or verdict to be reached in this case. No such indication is intended. You're instructed that the grand jury indictment is not evidence of guilt. It is the means whereby a defendant is brought to trial in a felony prosecution. It is not evidence, nor can it be considered by you in passing upon whether this defendant is guilty or not guilty. During your deliberations in this case, you must not consider, discuss, nor relate any matters not in evidence before you. You should not consider nor mention any personal knowledge or information you may have about any fact or person connected with this case, which is not shown by the evidence. You're instructed that you are not to let bias, prejudice, or sympathy play any part in reaching a verdict in this case. After argument of counsel, you will retire to the jury room, select your own presiding juror, and proceed with your deliberations. After you have reached a unanimous verdict, the presiding juror will certify thereto by filling in the appropriate forms attached to this charge and signing his or her name as presiding juror. You are the exclusive judges of the facts proved, of the credibility of the witnesses, and of the weight to be given the testimony. But you are bound to receive the law from the court, which is herein given to you, and be governed by that law. In order to return a verdict, each juror must agree to that verdict. But jurors have a duty to consult each other and to deliberate with a view to reaching unanimous agreement, if that can be done without violence to individual judgment. A unanimous vote means all 12 jurors must agree. Each juror must decide the case for himself, but only after an impartial consideration of the evidence with his fellow jurors. In the course of deliberations, a juror should not hesitate to re-examine his own views and change his opinion if convinced it is erroneous. However, no juror should surrender his honest conviction as to the weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of his fellow jurors or for the mere purpose of returning a verdict. All persons are presumed to be innocent, and no person may be convicted of an offense unless each element of the offense is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. The fact that a person has been arrested, confined, or indicted for, or otherwise charged with the offense gives rise to no inference of guilt at his trial. The law does not require a defendant to prove his innocence or produce any evidence at all. The presumption of innocence alone is sufficient to acquit the defendant unless the jurors are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt after careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence in the case. The prosecution has the burden of proving the defendant guilty, and it must do so by proving each and every element of the offense charge beyond a reasonable doubt. And if it fails to do so, you must acquit the defendant. It is not required that the prosecution prove guilt beyond all possible doubt. It is required that the prosecution's proof excludes all reasonable doubt concerning the defendant's guilt. In the event you have a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt, after considering all the evidence before you and these instructions, you will acquit him and say by your verdict, not guilty. Suitable forms for your verdict are attached to the charge for your convenience if you care to use them, but they are not intended to suggest to you in any way what your verdict should be, and you may or may not, as you see fit, make use of them. At any rate, your verdict must be in writing and signed by your presiding juror. Your only duty at this time is to determine whether the defendant is guilty under the indictment in this cause, and you must restrict your deliberations to the issue of whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty and nothing else. After you have retired to the jury room, no one has any authority to communicate with you except the officer who has you in charge. Do not attempt to talk to the officer or anyone else concerning any question you may have. Instead, address your questions to the court in writing. If you want to communicate with the court, notify the bailiff. Any and all communications relative to the case must be written, prepared by the presiding juror, and submitted to the court through the bailiff. Respectfully submitted, Judge Stephanie Boyd, 187th District Court, Bexar County, Texas, and suitable forms are attached. State, are you prepared to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Right, State, you may proceed.
May it please the court, opposing counsel.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so much for your patience these last couple days. We're going to ask y'all to hold on for just a little bit longer while we talk to you. So I'm going to talk first about evidence, what you're going to get and what you're not going to get when you guys get to go back. So first and foremost, what you're not going to get. There was a lot of discussion about police reports. The officers were testifying. You're not going to get those. Those weren't entered as evidence. They're essentially quintessential hearsay. So that's not going back with you. A little bit more of what was discussed. There was a forensic interview that was brought. Again, that's hearsay. That's not going to go back with you. Previous statements that everybody's been talking about. Again, it's hearsay. We can't give it to you. It's not going back with you. But I want to talk to you about what you do get. First, there's the sexual assault examination. A couple of medical documents. So the sexual assault examination, as well as the paper that defense counsel entered that had the prescription for the Miralax. So those are the physical items that you're taking back to the room. But what do we talk about in voir dire that you're also able to consider when you're deciding this case? Everything that was set up at that witness stand. All of those witness testimonies. So first and foremost, who do you have? The detective came in, Detective O'Brien, talked to you about what a typical sexual assault investigation looks like, especially after 120 hours. And she told you what you should expect, what you shouldn't, what they look for in terms of consistencies and red flags with how they move forward with their case. Another person you heard from was Officer Anderson. Officer Anderson was the first stranger that Gabby had to sit there and talk to about what happened. And she talked to you exactly about how she testified or how she relayed the events to her, how she'd shut down, and you got to see how what she did with Officer Anderson is exactly what happened on this witness stand. It's traumatizing. And it was then, and it is now. You also heard from April Vasquez, Gabby's mom, who talked to you about the trust that the defendant built with this family in order to accomplish his own agenda. You also heard from Dr. Kellogg, who talked to you about the same. She went through it all with you. And she told you what you should expect, but more importantly, what you shouldn't expect. We told you this is not CSI. There's not everything everywhere. She told you what you should expect when you get a sane exam like this. And finally, the very first person you heard from was Gabby, who grit her teeth and went through everything that the defendant did to her. Everything she has since tried to forget. The progression that started when she said herself, the weird hug when she was just 13. She got up here and testified as a 17-year-old. She told somebody for the first time when she was 14, almost 15. And she talked to you about everything that happened leading up to what she knew was wrong. And that's exactly what our counts relay. So let's go through those real fast. Count 1, that's the catalyst to this entire investigation. That's that final sexual contact where he made contact with her sexual organ, with his penis. He went to her room and tried to put his penis in her vagina, and she told you it happened, it occurred, and it hurt. The next count, count 2. This is one of those stepping stones that he took in order to accomplish his ultimate goal. One of the final ones, probably, where he caused the mouth of a child who was 14 or 13 at the time, to come in contact with his sexual organ, his penis. And Gabby told you that happened. Count 3. This one is another one of those stepping stones. This was probably one of the first ones after the kisses started, where he caused sexual contact by touching her breast with the intent to arouse or gratify himself. How do you know that? Because she told you, I thought he liked me. I didn't think anything was wrong. There was a relationship he was building with her. And finally, count 4. That the defendant engaged in sexual contact by touching part of her genitals. You heard her tell you that he would put his hand on her vagina. He would put his hand on her butt too, but he would put his hand on her vagina under and over. That's the progression we're talking about here today. That's what this case is all about. It's very simple. Defense wants you to think there's all these different reasons he couldn't ever be alone. It only takes a touch, only takes a couple seconds, folks. This case is very simple. It boils down to this. If you believe Gabby, you believe he is guilty of all 4 counts. And that's how you should render your verdict today. Thank you. Your Honor, the state would reserve the remaining time for rebuttal, please.
Defense.
Good morning. So you heard the prosecutor describe when you go back there, essentially you're going to get 2 pieces of paper as your evidence to decide this case. And one of those items is ours. So essentially when you go back there and you're going to decide, look at the evidence, you have 1 document. You may remember yesterday when the detective was testifying. And there was a moment that stood out for me and it was concerning. And it was this moment where I think the detective was frustrated. And she said, I have 700 cases to deal with. I don't have time to look at all the documents that come my way. And it was in reference to the DNA lab report. Sylvia asked her, did you look at the DNA lab report? And it became very apparent. She had no interest, even during her investigation, about the lab report. Even after time went on, she did not take the initiative to look at the lab report, which showed no semen on the bedding, on the clothing. She had no interest. And the logical implication is that she just didn't have enough time. She didn't have enough time to go to the crime scene. She didn't have enough time to talk to other witnesses. She just didn't have enough time. Or she was indifferent, she didn't care. And God helped you that at some point, someone accuses you of one of the worst crimes imaginable, sexual abuse. And this is the quality of investigation that you're subjected to. You have a detective who admittedly said, I have no interest in going to the crime scene. I don't see any value, really. You have no interest in seeing if what this young person is describing is actually physically possible. You have no interest in seeing if there are any locks on the doors. You have no interest in seeing the location of the stairs and seeing if anybody could yell or scream down. No interest. She had no interest in talking to anybody else. Remember her words. If they didn't see it happen, what value are they to me? Well, one thing, if they didn't see it happen, possible that it didn't happen. She didn't talk to any of the kids to say, hey, did you see Brandon go into this room? No. Did she talk to anybody else to say at any point in their visits, did you see anything inappropriate? No. And this detective goes on to say, there's no DNA, so I'm not even going to check the report. And what's concerning, up until yesterday, I was wondering, why did this detective go through the trouble of looking at the video and immediately executing an arrest warrant? I mean, why did she just not wait for the DNA reports? I'm just curious about that. It never occurred to me that she had no interest in looking at the DNA reports. And the reason she had no interest is because she was already presuming that he was guilty. You have prosecutors here that are labeling Brandon as a sex offender. And what they're offering to you really is a 3-hour investigation, and that's it. An hour to talk to the mom, at best. An hour to watch the video, and an hour to type up their arrest warrant. And that's your investigation. A 3-hour investigation that regarding allegations that are going to affect Brandon for the next 30 years of his life. Does that seem appropriate to you? When you go back to the jury room, you're going to get the set of jury instructions. And it became very clear to me when this detective was testifying, she presumed that he was guilty already. She presumed. The law doesn't work that way. And the police officer, as a detective, I submit to you that she should know better and that she should believe better. When you go back to the jury room, you're going to turn to page 13. You're going to go back to page 13, and at the very bottom of it, it's going to say, you are instructed that Brandon is presumed innocent. It's a fundamental part of our law. This detective, for whatever reason, didn't believe that. And this detective said, I met my probable cause, so I got an arrest warrant. That is not the standard for the jury system, not for the courtroom. The prosecutor has to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And this detective did nothing to eliminate reasonable doubt. So as you're deliberating over this case, I'm asking you to be mindful that was this detective fair towards Brandon? And remember what the detective said. The detective said, I believed her because she was consistent. Remember when Dr. Kellogg was up there? And I asked Dr. Kellogg, did she tell any of the medical staff that she'd been choked? And Dr. Kellogg looked at the paper and she said, yes, she told the medical staff that she had been choked. She denied it on the witness stand. You're going to see in that report that she doesn't say anything about choking. Where's the consistency? So for these reasons, we're asking you to find not guilty in this case. Thank you for your time.
William Blackstone is an author to a quote that says, it's better that 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man wrongly convicted. We can't afford to have one innocent man be convicted based on this type of evidence that you heard these last couple of days. We talked about the levels of proof. On the lower end, it's reasonable suspicion, probable cause, which is all the detective had to have somebody arrested, and here we are in court. After a person's arrested, if they gather more information and more evidence, then it could ultimately lead to this end of the spectrum and ultimately lead to beyond a reasonable doubt. But we're nowhere near beyond a reasonable doubt. We're still stuck at probable cause because someone said it. Remember during voir dire, you know how quickly someone can get arrested? This quickly. make a report, say that that happened, and they're behind bars. And that's exactly what happened. Someone said it, the detective is going to believe them because they repeated the general information to 5 different people. We learned the type of mother that April is. You heard it from Jodeci. Very strict parent. In fact, Jodeci, you could tell, felt bad for her because she's a little overbearing, overly strict. She gave the boys more privileges than her. We know what that causes the child to become rebellious. And knowing that it was probably due to a pregnancy scare, that's what we believe it might have been. And later hearing her mother wanted to get a gun to go to his house and who knows what I was going to do. Do you think once she said this, she was ever going to say that that did not happen? And I'm sorry, it's just that I thought I was pregnant and I wasn't. She's not going to go back. And now she's too far in. She's not going to change her story now. She has a lot to lose and she knows the kind of parent she has. It wasn't going to change. The state failed to bring you information that would be helpful to you, evidence that would be helpful to you, other witnesses that could have been helpful to you to try to prove their case. What happened to her father? If he was there on April 13th, like she's saying that he was, right? They were all there, the family. Why is he not here? Remember, Brandon would go to their house to help him out because he had gout on his foot and it's painful. And Brandon would gladly go over and help him with things that he needed. Kike or Enrique is not here because he doesn't believe his own stepdaughter. They didn't bring you any of the brothers. So even if the detectives didn't interview them, the DA's office has their own investigators and they can also interview witnesses too and bring them forward. But they're not going to bring you what's going to hurt their case. Those are people that were there on these dates that they've alleged that could fill you in and make their case stronger, right? To lead them up to possibly beyond a reasonable doubt. But we don't have any of that. They did not bring you this. They failed in meeting their burden. They failed in bringing you sufficient proof. Destiny Vasquez, where is she? They didn't bring her because Destiny doesn't believe her own friend. She knows
Assuming facts not in evidence, Your Honor, there's nothing to support that a witness believes that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you remember the facts as they have been presented to you. You may continue.
if it was going to be helpful to their case, she would have been here.
Objection striking over the shoulder, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Now, who else did they not bring? The forensic interviewer, because she would change her story.
Objection, assuming facts not in evidence. and-
Ladies and gentlemen, you will remember the facts as they were presented to you.
Again, it wasn't going to be helpful to their case. The nurses from the hospital, that wasn't going to be helpful to their case either, because she had inconsistencies in her statements. And they also didn't bring you the most important person, the forensic scientist.
Objection, counsel knows, Your Honor, that this was hearsay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you'll remember the evidence as it was presented to you.
They did not bring you the forensic scientist. In fact, who has been misleading who? Who has been the mentirosos? The state has
Objection,
been misleading.
clearly striking over the shoulder
Sustained.
again.
You have been misled, and it hasn't been from the defense. You heard the prosecutor tell the detective, oh, and the results came back inconclusive, didn't they? I don't know, I didn't look at them until later and all. They didn't come back inconclusive. It doesn't mean the same thing. Inconclusive is when there was no final result made. They couldn't come to a conclusion. So they want to hide that fact that it's negative. The results were negative. I mean, even the penny liner, how closer can you get to a genital area? That was even negative. And of course, she provided that evidence, right? The clothing and her underwear, because if it happened, that would have had that evidence in it. And it didn't. And that was hurtful to the state. And you heard the detective, oh, well, if the DNA results would have been positive, that would have been gold. She agreed with me. That's gold. DNA is gold. Then that would have been helpful to their case. And she even said, then the guy would have pled, right? But it came back negative. And so now how she characterizes it was, well, that's not a big surprise that it came back negative. Well, because it didn't help their case. She was hoping that it would be positive, but he was never there. So it was not going to have any DNA, nor, for that matter, any hair follicles. So you even say, look, this places him on the bed at least. So we know that he was there because he's saying he never went in that room other than bringing the furniture that time. So again, what's not helpful to their case wasn't brought to you. And that's very important. Now, you know, you always want to look at the quality of their witnesses. So who they did bring was not very valuable to their case. So they bring Gabby, of course, and she testifies, and she doesn't give a whole lot of details with other than we went in the room, he tried to put his penis in my, or he put his penis in my vagina. And in general, he, you know, kissed me, he touched my boobs and my private parts. Do we know where all this happened? Okay, well, she said her room with the sexual intercourse. And how about the rest of the stuff? Do we have details? Normally we have descriptions of their private part. Was it hard, soft, in between? What did it look like? How did it feel? Who was where? Was she sitting down, standing up, bending over, backwards? However, the details come out when it's true. A person will not remember every lie that they've told. In the future, they forget what they said, but the truth will always be the truth. And so that's why I lost count of all the times she said she didn't know, she didn't remember. I don't know. I don't remember. Think of the first time that you had your first sexual experience, good or bad. You don't forget certain things with something like that. So looking at the quality of witnesses is important. April, well, I mean, she's going to cover for her daughter.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Judge. And she's going to, you know, she's here to protect her daughter, but she had a hard time even saying that her daughter wasn't always truthful. And Detective O'Brien, if I don't see it, if I don't see it happening, I'm not going to interview, right? He's only going to interview the people that saw. Well, no one sees those acts. How about circumstantial evidence to put it all together, right? Witnesses that saw him go there, it matched the dates, and the kids saw him go in there too, right? Those kinds of things are corroborating evidence, and they didn't see the act take place. You're not going to have eyewitnesses, but everything surrounding it, you will. But they didn't care to investigate, just like my partner said. That he was coming down in 5-minute increments back and forth that day. Nobody saw that, not even April. She said he went up once. Jodeci testified to what she saw that day, and she has it more clear than April and Gabby. Bringing the clothes, we tried it on, we went in the room. Gabby also was looking and interested in the clothes. Then we went, you know, to the island area. He went up a couple minutes. Again, yes, it's true. In a couple of minutes, you can go and you know, engage in sexual activity, yes. But this bed was on the floor. You're going to take those, what's reasonable? You're going to take those chances, get on the ground, basically, on the mattress, risking someone just walking in, a child, you know, kids walk in all the time and on people. That doesn't seem reasonable. And you would think that the time that something would have happened and Gabby would have said, he touched me when we went to the corner store. Nobody's in the vehicle. It's just them two. They're in close proximity. And then that would have seemed more reasonable, but no. They just had a normal visit because he was, like an uncle to her. They went and got ice and came back. That would have been more reasonable. Yes, that's where it could have happened. Anything. And she didn't feel uncomfortable even going that week later during the freeze, spending the night. She didn't tell her parents, I don't feel comfortable going over to their house. Even if she didn't say why, we didn't hear anything about that because it didn't happen, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon, you heard from his wife and also April, he was a trustworthy person. She trusted him 100% with her family. He was never inappropriate. There was no signs to even show that he was that kind of person. It'd be one thing if, I've noticed that they're being too buddy over here and hanging out too much. You didn't hear any of that.
2 minutes.
That is the person that Brandon is. That's the same person that he was at that time. And that's the same person he is sitting here today before you. That is a person that's been falsely accused by someone who we believe had a pregnancy scare and now can't go back any longer. She feared her mother and she was never going to change her story. Thankfully for her, the pregnancy test was negative. And if it would have been positive, it was not by Brandon. One thing I will say from the detective, she did finally concede that false allegations do exist. And we all know that they do exist. And later, sometimes people become exonerated, but by then it's too late. They've served too many years in prison. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen how Brandon was railroaded by this investigation. Brandon deserves justice, and only you can make sure that we get justice today. I ask that you find Brandon not guilty on all counts of the indictment. Thank you.
I state you have 14 minutes.
Thank you, Judge. I thought he liked me. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Members of the jury, we brought up the laws of Texas with respect to sexual assault with a child because they were passed for these reasons. We don't want children to feel this way. Question, did you think it was wrong? Well, I hadn't really thought about it until her cousin said something. You thought it was normal? Yes. Again, members of the jury, with respect to sexual assault of a child, the laws were passed for this reason. We cannot allow children to feel this way. Can you remember each and every single instance or time he touched your butt, your breasts, your vagina, every time you performed oral sex on him? No. Did it happen more than once across all four? Yes. The laws of Texas are unequivocally clear, and we talked about it in voir dire. Children under the age of 17 cannot consent, okay? Now, counsel brought up some arguments in their closing argument, not one innocent man be put away. We agree with that. He's not innocent, okay? They had briefly, and you heard some testimony about a pregnancy scare, and we had clear talk on the record about the stool sample that it collected that was causing kind of the gastrointestinal pain, okay? And I found it interesting that the counsel said, well, complainant Gabby has everything to lose. I had a professor back in college who said, Zach, old Texas guy, you know how risky it is to jump out of a plane, Zach? And I was like, it seems pretty risky. He goes, not risky at all. You know why? Because risk implies reward and it implies loss. And if you jump out of a plane, you're certain to die. She has already lost everything. She has nothing. Counsel says, well, she has a lot to lose. I'm telling you right now, she's already lost everything. You know who has something to lose? The defendant sitting in that chair. She's lost it all. He has something to lose. Now, when I spoke with you for the first time about the facts of this case, I laid out exactly how I thought the progression of this case would go for the state's case in chief. First, I noted that we would call Gabrielle Guerrero. I said she was about 13 or 14. He was twice her age. He was 27. I noted how hopefully she'd be able to articulate the elements of the offense as put forth in the indictment, the 4-count indictment. And I said that this was not a case of the biological dad or the stepfather or the creepy uncle, right? This is a case of the trusted family friend. And then I said that you would hear from April, the mother, who would be extremely upset. She was upset the day of. She was the outcry witness, so she could get into things she heard, because under Texas law, it kind of opens that door. And again, we talked about the trusted family friend. I said I'd hoped availability and kind of other concerns allowing, we'd be able to bring you a doctor or a sexual assault nurse examiner to put him on the stand. And thankfully we were able to, because we stayed late that day. And then I talked about, we'd hear from the officer and detective and how, again, just like my counsel stated, everyone has stated, the police reports, the forensic interview, they're not going back with you, right? That's not a state thing at all, not a defense thing, not even a judge thing. That's a laws of the state of Texas thing, okay? Now let's talk about Gabby. Let's talk about how difficult it was for her to articulate what happened to her, okay? You know who else said that she had difficulty? Her mother, right? Gabby started crying and she just stood there, hair sopping wet in a towel she had gotten out of the shower. Dr. Kellogg notes in a report, State's Exhibit number 1, patient was tearful when talking about the abuse. Officer Anderson, she got quiet. She began to tear up. Detective O'Brien, she had a difficult time. She was crying, kind of got quiet, hard to talk about things, lots of pausing. So her mother, Dr. Kellogg, Officer Anderson, the detective who watched the forensic, they all had the same impression. The girl you saw on the stand is the same girl that talked to all of them across different timelines, okay? Now, in the direct examination of Gabby, we talked about how she knew the defendant, trusted him, he would come over with his then girlfriend, now wife, and that's when she laid out what happened. So she laid out initially the kissing, and she kind of mentioned the touching of the butt that got a little bit more serious. Then she mentioned the touching over the clothes. He touched my vagina. And then I would put my mouth on his private part. What do you mean by private part? His penis. Counsel said they don't know where this happened. Where did this happen? In my room. And there was no embellishment here, right? She was pretty clear. There was a lot of people at the house on the bottom floor, right? And the young brothers, the kid brothers. So if someone's really going to lie, they're going to say, oh man, it was that one time. This person had no motive or incentive to lie. Touching doesn't take very long, okay? What happened next? We pulled my pants down. He laid me on the bed. He started kissing me, grabbing my boobs. He put his penis inside my vagina. I pushed him off me. It hurt. I didn't like it. And then this was so natural. She said that she then called the friend because she wanted him to know that like she was with someone when he would come back in. I've called people on my way home from work. Hey, let's put someone on the phone. You know, maybe I'm feeling a little bit, if it's laid out or whatnot, I want to be on the phone. I want to feel a little bit safer. Then we asked, any force here? No. Right? Again, no embellishment, only the truth. Right? Again, children under the age of 17 can't consent, but with respect to any amount of force, that's not what this case is about. It's never touched on because that's not what it's about. She said no. Okay. But then in the cross-examination, we talked about the bed sheets, we talked about the clothing, and I'm going to talk about that. Okay. But the thing that really shocked me at the end of the cross-examination, counsel said, so you didn't record him? No, but you had the opportunity to record him. And it was unclear if they were talking about somehow setting up and like recording the sexual assault that took place, or recording him later when she was on the phone with FaceTime. I'm not sure what that meant, but what it sounded like they were asking you to say is, hey, look, if it's not on camera, it's not recorded. You want to talk about, God forbid? I mean, oh my goodness, if it's not recorded, don't find anyone guilty ever of these things, okay? You know who would love to have a recording of that video of the sexual assault taking place? The complainant. And if not her, maybe that would be too hard to watch. You know who would really love a recording of the sexual assault taking place? The state. But this is what we talked about in voir dire. I gave the example of me punching Margie in a closed room. Everyone looked me in the eye and said, okay, look, I punch her. No one is there. There's nothing going on. I'm just in a room and I punch her in the face. Are we saying that we can't prosecute those crimes? Everybody gave the headline of, no, that's not what we're saying, right? Because you have to think about it. And I'm going to bring this point up again too, right? The defendant chooses the victim. The defendant chooses the time. The defendant chooses the place, okay? Now, you heard from Dr. Kellogg, and she gave a brief description of how outcries can be delayed and how there's really no injury. That kind of tissue is meant to heal very quickly, particularly in young girls. she talked about how DNA in her experience across 10,000 examinations going back to 88 is extremely rare. Then you heard from April. And what I loved most was counsel's questions of April, actually, because they really got to the heart of the matter with respect to the trust. That's what I just said. Trust leads to who, when, and where. With trust can come the defendant's choice of who. With trust can come the decision of where to do it. And with trust can come the decision of when to do it. Okay? And with the trust, it was not unusual for Brandon to go upstairs. I trusted him. You trusted him? Oh, absolutely. I trusted him. We built trust over those years. So he had always shown you that respect? Yes. That is what makes this case so much more nefarious, right? Because of the trust, because it's not the creepy uncle or the dad or the stepfather with the custody issues or the divorce. You never heard that get brought up in this trial because it's not even remotely possible. It's not even in the field of play. There's no other motive. There's nothing like that in this case. Nothing. There was trust. And with that trust came opportunity. You heard from Officer Anderson pretty briefly. She kind of gave an overview of her processes. We tried to make it clear in the questioning. That's SAPD, their general manual and procedures of showing up, taking a report.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor, and giving it to the detective, right? But even she made a brief mention about outside of 120 hours, it meaning the testing, it really wouldn't render anything useful as far as identification. Would it surprise you that this was 8 days later? No. And then you heard from Detective O'Brien, right? And she got to the heart of the matter, that DNA right off the bat, right? After 3 days, there would be hardly a chance to find DNA evidence, right? And, you know, counsel talked about her having no interest and, you know, not making any logical implications. I'll tell you what she had no interest in. She had no interest in the weird corollary or parallel that defense was making to what a murder investigator would do. I'm not sure where that line of questioning was going. And you want to talk about a logical implication. Let's talk logic. In Detective O'Brien's testimony, and her statements up there, she said sometimes even hours, not days, hours after assault happened, she wouldn't see DNA. And she said 2 or 3 days, I mean, even then, you're almost never going to see it. So we're talking about 8 days later. Okay, this is why we talk about it in voir dire. That's why we talked about it with Officer Anderson. That's why we talked about it with Detective O'Brien. That's a logical implication. We talked about the bedding some more with her. It didn't sound like anything came out of his penis. It sounds like it was a short encounter. And you want to talk about, we talked about false accusations, right? And before we got to the false accusations, we really wanted to hone in. What was it exactly that led you to file this case? You don't file every case, right? But you filed this case. Why? The 3 C's: consistency, corroboration, and credibility. Counsel wants to get up here and say, well, come on, you heard from her on the stand. I mean, that's ridiculous. You heard from, again, I was going over the candor and how consistent it was. The candor is consistent, also the statements, right? Detective O'Brien she's the one that saw the whole puzzle, right? She saw her statements to her mom. She had a chance to review or was there for the forensic interview. She had a chance to see the same. The same account was given to the cousin, the mother, the officer, the forensic, the sexual assault nurse examiner, and on the stand. That's 6 different temporal periods across 5 different people. Consistent, credible, corroborated. And again, I want to just make a quick mention of the fact that at the very, very, very end of her direct examination, again, the brief touching on DNA, that's why we talked about it in voir dire. That's why I made the example of punching Margie in voir dire, okay? I would love that, okay? I don't have that. Don't hold that against the complainant. It was consistent across 5 people in 6 different dimensions and aspects, okay? And she actually echoed the same sentiment I was thinking the whole time. The only person with something to lose here is him. She's lost it all, right? And typically with false accusations, well, yeah, usually there's a motive, there's something to gain, there's some sort of custody agreement. Nowhere. in the whole case, nothing from every witness you heard, that is not even remotely what's in the field of play here, okay? You're talking about a kid who talked about touching of her vagina, touching of her breast, oral sex, sexual intercourse, okay? In particular with counts 3 or 4, those are quick. Those can be very, very, very quick. You don't need more than a few seconds. And all you need is an opportunity. An opportunity that would come most likely from who? Again, I know I'm beating a dead horse. This isn't the case of the creepy uncle or the
1
dad
minute.
or the stepdad, okay? It's more nefarious. It hurts a little bit deeper that it was the trusted family friend who took advantage of an opportunity when he had it. And we respectfully request across all 4 counts, you find the defendant guilty.
Right, thank you. All right. We're off the record. If I could see the state of the defense.